Islamist tide rising in Pakistan, a potentially dangerous, troubling era dawned Sunday in Pakistan's Swat-Valley, where a top Islamist militant leader, emboldened by a peace agreement with the federal government of Pakistan, laid out an ambitious plan to bring a complete Islamic system to the surrounding northwest region and the entire country. This does not bode well for the U.S. and the Western world. No, not at all. Speaking to thousands of followers in an address aired live from SWAT on national news channels, cleric Sufi Muhammad bluntly defied the Constitution and federal judiciary, saying he would not allow any appeals to state courts under the system of Sharia, or Islamic law, that will prevail there as a result of the peace accord signed by the President Tuesday. Muhammad said, "The Quran says that supporting an infidel system is bad," referring to Pakistan's modern democratic institutions. He also declared that in Swat, home to at least 1.5 million people, all un-Islamic laws and customs will be abolished. Muhammad's dramatic speech echoed a rousing sermon in Islamabad on Friday by another radical cleric who appeared at the Red Mosque in the capital after nearly 2 years in detention, and urged several thousand chanting followers to launch a crusade for Islamic law nationwide. The Ark of Radical Islam. Together, these rallying cries seem to create an arc of radical religious energy between the turbulent Taliban-plagued northwest region and the increasingly vulnerable federal capital. Again, and the increasingly vulnerable federal capital, less than 100 miles to the east. In the words of Benazir Bhutto, who passed on a couple years ago after she was murdered. She gave an interview to a reporter a month or so before she was assassinated and murdered. And in the interview, Benazir Bhutto said that within a few years, the Taliban, or the militants, would be marching on the capital of Pakistan. This is particularly troubling news. Anyway, they also appeared to pose a direct, unprecedented religious challenge to modern state authority in the Muslim nation of 176 million. The government made a big mistake to give these guys legal cover for their agenda. Now they are going to be battle ready to struggle for the soul of Pakistan, said a professor of security studies at a Pakistani university. Again, now they are going to be battle ready to struggle for the soul of Pakistan. He predicted a further surge and the suicide bombings that have recently become an almost daily occurrence across the country. 2 recent bombings at security checkpoints in the Northwest killed more than 40 people, among many other numerous examples. Richard C. Holbrooke, the U.S. Special Envoy to the region, said in an interview Sunday on CNN that the decision by insurgents to keep fighting in spite of the peace deal should be a wake-up call to everybody in Pakistan, and actually the whole world, that you can't deal with these people by giving away territory as they creep closer and closer to the populated centers of Islamabad, the capital of Pakistan. Yes, this does not forebode well for the United States. So in essence, in retrospect, this is what the Afghanistan war, the war in Afghanistan, has evolved into. The hardline or hardcore militants, or Taliban, have been pushed into Pakistan, in turn, thereby destabilizing the whole country of Pakistan, and in turn the whole area has been destabilized, and again in turn the entire world has been destabilized, because what does Pakistan have that is particularly bad? Nuclear weapons. Yes, they have atomic weapons. So then, what happens? What could happen if the Taliban take over Pakistan someday? The answer should be obvious. Also, suspected U.S. missile strikes in Pakistan are creating more rage, more anger, and building support for the militants. And such attacks have become a very powerful recruitment tool for the extremist groups in Pakistan as anti-American sentiment builds. The government of Pakistan agreed to Muhammad's demands in a theoretical effort to halt violent intimidation by Taliban forces that the army has been unable to quell despite months of operations in the former tourist haven, which has now become a terrorist haven. No, that's not particularly good. In recent interviews, SWAT leaders and refugees described armed men in black turbans whipping suspected thieves on the spot, cutting off the ears and noses of village elders who opposed them, and selling videos of police beheadings. Yes, these are hardcore, hardline Islamists. And it's becoming more possible, if not likely, that they could take over the country of Pakistan before too awful long. This is what the Afghanistan war has created. We really had no choice, the government said. We had no power to crush the militants, and people are very desperate for peace. Provincial and federal officials have hoped their show of good faith would halt other insurgent inroads, but that's not going to happen. Instead, the evidence suggests that the extremist forces have drawn the opposite lesson from their victory in Swat and are gearing up to carry their armed crusade for a punitive, hardline form of Islam into new areas. And we achieve our goals in one place, we need to struggle for it in other areas. The inescapable reality is that another domino has toppled and the Taliban are a step closer to Islamabad, the capital of Pakistan. And these are the transition days, and these are more signs.